Praise God. One of the things I find, I think for me, humanity, we have a great ability to be arrogant. Even when we think we're not, we can be pretty darn arrogant. The ability to think that self-importance that grows on. You think about the things that make you mad in this world, really get under your skin. At the core, I think they're just too much self-importance in ourselves. We think that we matter too much. I mean, that's one of the amazing things about God, because, and in my words, not the scriptures, but in my words, the place that we need to really get to be humble is to realize that we're really not worth anything. You realize that all of us, when we are born, we are in a line going towards death. That is our only option at that point in our life that we know anything about. That is our only option. There is no, we might be a little more special here or there in that life as we live it, but there's no value in us that's going to keep us away from that death. Nothing. And then this amazing God, who's in the authority of all things, has a purpose for some, and he plucks those out of the line. That does not make you better than the person beside you, but because the only thing that got you out of that line going towards death was the sovereignty of a loving God.
That's right.
Amen.
Not something else, not something great we did, not something amazing. And even once we're taken out of that line and put somewhere else, and our name is written in a book, we're still not better than those in line.
That's right.
We've just called to a different purpose than those in line.
That's right.
And it's not your choice, it's not my choice, it's God's choice.
Amen.
So where have we earned this self-importance we seem to have?
Mm-hmm. We haven't.
This is true, we haven't. But it's something that somehow I feel like we all get to carry with us as we go. It's something we can't get rid of. It's the thing that I think gets us in trouble in the most, because we just think we can do it ourselves. We're smart enough. We're good enough. We're strong enough. We're whatever it is to take care of ourselves. You look at almost every message in the world today. That's exactly what it is. Obey your thirst. You can do it. Never give up. Well, it came to me this morning. It may sound wrong, but I'm going to give a different message today. Give up.
Okay.
And I know that may sound silly, and that may sound something that's just terrible to say, but if we really think about it, that's really what God is asking of us to do. To give up
Right.
to Him. Not give up on life, not give up on everything that we've got to do, not give up the struggle of being human, not give up all those things that make us who we are, but give up on the struggle. Give it to Him. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't try to let that pride well up in you. Don't let that arrogance go. Give it to God. Give up and let God carry it. It's a promise He's made us. Because I think it's that thing where we just try to persevere. We try to never give up. We try to always, it's always about what we can do. But it's really not. And I was just reading, and as I was thinking about those things and reading through some scriptures, I was in Luke, the 18th chapter. And these two men that were praying, starting in the 9th verse. And I find it interesting the way he set up this parable. He said in the 9th verse, he said, "And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous, and then they despised others." How arrogant is that? To be given such a great gift of salvation, to be plucked out of that line and been given another option, and then because we have received something we did not earn, now we have an arrogance about it. Christ tells us to live below. That example He had. What authority did Christ have? All authority. What power did He have? All. But that's not what He chose. That's not what He did. That's not the life. That's not the example He set for us. He's the Son of God, sitting on the right hand of God. He's sitting on the throne of God now. But that's not the life he lived. That's not the example that he set for us. And once again, he said, he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves, that trusted in themselves, and that they were righteous, and despised others. I often think sometimes, if you really think you're righteous, you're probably not.
Right.
It's kind of like when somebody starts a story off by saying, true story. That's probably a lie.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. If you got to tell somebody honest, maybe you have a problem. But we think of this thing. If you really think you're righteous, you're probably not, because one of those key things to being righteous is being humble like Christ. But he said, there's two men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. Now, the Pharisee would be your local Baptist, the religious folks for the day. They followed after the rules and regulations of the time from a religious standpoint. And the publican, well, tax collector, worked for the government, basically had no concern for religion whatsoever. Wasn't part of his normal social hierarchy, but basically a tax collector. And I've read this several times, and anytime I read it, I just get a smile on my face on just how silly and kind of funny the statement is, because not using these words with this sentiment, I think it's rampant in the church world today, where he just simply said, the Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are. I'm thankful that I'm good. I'm thankful that there's something special about me. I'm thankful that, I'm not like that mess over there. But when you really think of it, how many times do we do that similar thing in our lives? Maybe not as specific as stand down in prayer. But we really look at ourselves quite often, and let's be honest, we look at ourselves as above most others.
Right.
And I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem in that we don't talk about it, and I think it's a problem in the sense that it's too true. That we don't. For me, I think it's funny, and a little bit of an aside, but we talk about things we need to talk, particularly men. We're the worst. We talk about things we're supposed to think about, and we've seen things with suicide and things like that, and men's mental health and things like that. And to a man that I talked to about it, I think it's important to talk about it. We got to talk about it, and we talk about talking about it, but we don't talk about the thing. We don't talk about the stuff. We don't really get real about what men's mental health is, or what we're dealing with that's different in today's world, or may not be so different. I can be honest about mine because I don't know another way to be. I mean, as I stand here, quite often I'm more private when I walk out from here. But through what I went through for about a year or so, I mean, I was depressed, and a lot of that depression came from a simple thing. I'm a grown man. I'm strong. But nobody needed me. My kids are grown up. My boys don't need me. A couple of things didn't go well at work as much as it used to. They don't need me at work anymore. My wife every day gets stronger and more independent. She don't need me anymore. The worst thing for a grown man to feel is unnecessary. And to me, that's where my depression came from. I told the story many times that back there was just a depth of pain, of loneliness in my heart before I was saved. And you know what's the interesting thing? God took that away from me when I was saved. And he didn't, even though that mentally I was kind of going through that depression, that never came back. That was a permanent healing. That didn't change. And then in going through this, like I said, I laid down that day, and it was just like layer of dark veil just got removed. My God healed me of that too. And I just think about what God does with us. And I know some of what Frank was talking about. My boss, Kerry Neff, we prayed for him last Sunday. Oh, were we here last Sunday? Or Sunday before? Yeah, last Sunday. We were here. I'm sorry if I can't remember so well. But, we had our meeting in Cleveland, and I went to him and I said, can I talk to you for a few minutes? And he said, yeah. And so we talked for a few minutes, and I just want to say, I said, Chef, I just want to say thanks. I said I was going through some stuff, and it was tough, and this is where I was, and you held me accountable, and you kind of talked to me some, and it was helpful, and I appreciate that you would be that kind of a person, not just a boss, but you would be that kind of person. And then he just started talking to me that he's gone through the same things. He's gone through a lot of the same things. He's considered the same thing in his life and how it's going. And that every Saturday morning now he's got a professional he goes and talks to for an hour. But those are things I never would have known. That was something I would have never been able to touch in his life if I wouldn't have gone through something in my life. And I just, and I know it may seem silly that I can smile and appreciate that. I am very thankful I went through that. Because God has shown me that that point in my life, going through those things the same as somebody else, that now I have a different camaraderie with him. Now I can actually be a blessing to him instead of he and I kind of being estranged from each other. It changed the dynamic with that person because I went through something. To me, that's a blessing. The job that I'm in today, the reason I have a job today, this particular job as a corporate chef for North and South Carolina, is because a good friend of mine died of a massive heart attack. That's how I was able to get this job. And I just think about it because he was a friend. And as men are many times, we talk, but it was always in the progression of work. And like a week before he died, he just called me up just to talk. He and I didn't have that relationship. We just called each other just to see what's going on today. We talked a lot and we were involved in each other a lot, but we didn't do those things. And a week later, he passed away. And then at his funeral, the two higher ups for the culinary department were talking to me about taking his job. I didn't sleep for 3 days. But I put it aside and I said, I'm not going to worry about this anymore. And I didn't. And then right before they closed the job, the guy called me up and said, you need to put in for this. We want you in this role and so. So I put in for it and God has blessed me in it. But I just think line by line, thing by things that happen, they're not random. Now when I left Spartanburg Regional, my friend who died would have had it. Who took my job at Spartanburg Regional? His brother. And now his brother's a corporate executive chef along with me in a different thing. And he and I are great friends. And he's going through liver treatments right now. He's actually on the list in Colombia to get a new liver. Now that could be in 6 months. That could be 5 years. Those things take as they take. But you cannot tell me that those are random events in life that just happen. You can't tell me that not God's fingers are not in that. When I think about the grand things that God can do, God can take these mountains and knock them down. God can take any sickness or problem you've got in your life and eliminate it in a moment. And those things to me are wonderful, but those are not the things that prove God to me. And maybe that's not the proper way to say it, but those aren't the things that make me believe God. It's seeing his fingers in all those aspects of our life. Ruth and I being married. When I met Ruth, I was dating some other, I can't remember her name, but I was seeing somebody else. And then she had a long-term relationship before we dated, and she decided she wanted to see what she wanted to do. And it was about a 2-week period. And that's when I met Ruth and we started going out, and that was the end of things. But what if she didn't make the decision that she needed to figure things out and needed a break or whatever? What if that didn't happen? Like I said, I know it's off topic a little bit, but God, if you really stop and take a minute and you look at your life, we don't have to, I wait for the day. I pray for the day that we see that move of God in such a powerful way that there is no doubt through healing, through whatever he shows his miracle might to us. I'd love to see that day that we have revival like that, and that's just on the fingertips because of the power of God.
It's coming.
But that doesn't prove God to me. That doesn't give me the understanding, that no doubt feeling that God is real. Because that's amazing power. But to me, being involved in those fingertips, if we really look at it, how he touches our lives and how one thing fixed the other, even as in, all things work to good, as in Romans 8:28, all things work to good. my depression works to good for myself and others. And to me, it makes me smile. It lifts me up, because those are the things that make me know He's God. Because that's truly what He does. That's truly where He is. And this one man here he probably experienced more of that. And he took that and found an arrogance that I'm special. All these things that are good that I've got makes me special. No, it makes God special. It proves God special. It doesn't make you special. It's the one thing that being holy, being righteous, that we have to hold on to, is that humbleness of understanding that we were all put in the same line, going the same direction, and were only plucked up by the purpose of God for what He has for us. And that's the only reason, even though we are blessed, even though we can see the fingers of the things that He does in His life, we weren't picked up because we were any of those things, because there's greatness is up. We were not picked up because we're so wonderful. We were given a life that is wonderful because He's a great God and He chose us. And there should be and can be no arrogance in us because of that, if we understand it rightly. And so, as they trusted themselves, talking to these ones that are trusting themselves, and that said that we're so righteous and everybody else is terrible, he says, two of them went up to pray. The one a Pharisee, the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, God, I thank Thee that I am not like everybody else. I thank Thee that I'm special. I thank Thee that God's special. He said, God, I thank Thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. You know, I wonder, as I read that, I wonder if that publican had ever been in church before. Or if he did in church, was it just that purpose, good for business to be in church? But had he really been there for any other reason than something like that? And the Pharisee even goes on, I fast twice a week, I give tithes of everything I do. I do the stuff. And that's one thing I always think about in life. Do we concentrate about doing the stuff that God wants us to do, or do we concentrate on Him? You know, there is a difference. There is a difference in giving tithes as a checklist or a check mark on the list of things as a Christian I'm supposed to do. We talk about that at work regularly, doing things with passion and energy and effort, or doing it just as a check mark. Okay, this is off the list. And there's a significant difference between those two things. If I understand the purpose, then it's not just a check mark. So he said, I fasted twice a week. I check mark, boom. I'm supposed to do that. It proves my religion. I'm special, so I got to do this. So I'm going to check mark that twice a week. The Bible even talks about how the Pharisees and Sadducees pray, right? Loud so everybody can see. Long-winded. Talks about when they fast. Oh, I'm so hungry. I'm fasting. Oh, I'm so hungry. Which is not what either one of those things are about. But just because you do the act does not make the act pure, and does not make the act righteous. In the Old Testament, He even told them, right? There's some that they're burning incense and doing this meat offerings, and it makes me sick. I don't want to even smell it. Because they were just doing it. It's just a check mark. Just the thing I have to do. It's on my list. It's on my calendar. I got to get it done. I got to get it off the books so I can feel better. Because there's less stress now because I did the thing. I did the thing I was supposed to do. Now I'm good. No clue why I did it. Oh, no understanding of the purpose. No wanting to do it because it's the right thing to do. Wanting to do it because God calls me in that direction. But just, this is the rule. This is what I'm supposed to do. I reduce the stress in my life by check marking things. And I understand that a great deal when it comes to work, especially. Check mark's my friend. I like my list, and I like to run through them. I'm so bad sometimes I put things that I've already done on my list so I can just have some things run through. That's how terrible I am with lists when it comes to work. And then it comes to the publican. and the publican standing afar off. You know, I kind of think about standing in a way. You know, if there's a crowd, I find it interesting with myself when it comes to a crowd of people. Most of the time, if there's a crowd of people, my favorite place to be is away from that crowd of people. Now, if I know everybody there, sometimes there's a comfort level and I feel different. But just as general, a big crowd of people, if I can be away from that, I'm much, much happier. But that's not what this publican was doing. He wasn't standing off because he didn't like crowds. I believe he was standing off because he didn't feel worthy. Here's all these people that love God and are serving God and are showing examples, like doing their tithes and doing their fasting and doing all these things. He did not feel worthy of where they are. Now, I didn't have an understanding, and like I said, that part is my interpretation of it. But he's standing off because he's humbled by God. His moment now, whatever had happened up into his life until this point, was in this moment now. He's humbled by God. And he said he would not lift up his eyes, wouldn't look up, but smote upon his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. God, be merciful to me, a sinner. This to me is just a picture of humbleness. It's a picture of where we're supposed to be with God. Too many times, though, we, in our initial phase of life, initial phase of being with God, initial phase of opportunity of being redeemed and having that salvation, in that initial phase, we're all here. We're all in that same spot. But what happens after that? Too many times I feel like we grow to be the Pharisee. We start out as a publican and we grow to be the Pharisee. We grow right out of that humbleness. We grow out of that commitment to God, and things turn into a checklist. And to me, it's something that we should guard our lives against. Has our faith truly come down to just a checklist of things we're supposed to do every day? Or is it something that we follow in like this publican, being humble towards? And even Christ says finally, he said, I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. The last shall be first, the first shall be last. It's a strange thing. In almost everything else we do in life, the more experience we get, the kind of better we get at it. The higher we are up on the rung of things. And that's another thing I love about God. Every time we think we got figured out something else, he says, nope, that's not it. You know, as a chef, we just had a big event with 14, 15 chefs running around, and I was in charge. I was the most experienced. I had the greatest position, and I pulled all the people together, put them in the right spots. I'd gained trust with them by our relationships. I'd gained trust with them by making good decisions and being a wise chef around them. I gained a high status with them. And I don't discount that as being a Christian, but really as a Christian, we should become more and more humble as we gain in experience, more and more humble as we gain in all the things in Christ, not less. And one of the attributes of a great leader, and this is my opinion, whether it is a Christian leader, whether it is a worldly leader, is that humbleness. Because the first thing you have to do is the opposite of the Pharisee here. The Bible tells us, one of my favorite scriptures, that we should esteem others better than ourselves. Like, I actually told some people that one time, and they said, oh, that's a great quote. Where did that come from? I said, the Bible. And they looked at me like, really? You know, but that's what we're supposed to be. And as we grow in strength and we grow in experience and we grow in things that we know, we're supposed to get more that way. Not like the Pharisee and become, well, I'm good. I do all these things. I do all the things I'm supposed to. I look the part. I act the part. I must be the part. That guy over there, he's not the part. He's not special. He's not important. Everybody is important. And I don't mean that in some political sense, whatever matters and all that. It's not what I mean. Every person we run into is a potential brother and sister in Christ. I've told you this before. It's one of the hardest things for me to do is when I'm out and about traveling. And, you run into beggars and things and situations all the time. And I often think, I said, most of the time I don't give, but occasionally I do. And I try to wait till I have that feeling of this is the right thing to do. This is that person that, but I always worry that I get it wrong. Because what it costs me is a couple of bucks. And while I think most people out there these days that are panhandling are doing just fine, they're getting lots of money panhandling. But what if I'm wrong? What if I withheld something that's just money? From somebody who has a true need. From somebody who's truly being blessed by Christ, who's pulled in front of me as an angel unawares. How do I know that I haven't made that mistake because I'm trying to decide who's the right one, who's the wrong one? And I don't say I get that right, and I'm not trying to put that as let's all figure that out together and who's the right one, the wrong one. All I would question is it better to be err on the side of giving to somebody who's not worthy, or withholding something from somebody who is? Which side of that judgment do we want to be on? Which side of that scenario we want to be on? And I say that with people, and that's just about giving money here and there. But the reality is how we treat people, how we present our Christian life to people. And like I said, God has shown me moment by moment through good and through bad. He's put me in a position that I've been able to show my Christian life to those beyond sometimes what I would expect. But if we ever start looking like this Pharisee did, as this group over here is lesser, this group over here that's not like us is less important, then we've missed that mark so unequivocally high. We've missed that mark ridiculously. We've missed that mark to the worst degree that we can. We have to understand two things if you're a Christian, and I think this simplifies it up for me. We should always look at ourselves as lesser, and we should always look at others as greater. And if we can hold on to that principle of Christianity, that principle of faith, we're going to get those answers to those questions right a whole lot more than we're going to get them wrong. And it never limits your testimony. Never limits your testimony if you think of the other person as greater and you are lesser. It never will once limit your testimony. When we do like the Pharisee in this did, and he reversed that order, we get too self-important and we don't care enough about the other guy, and we don't give him much credence toward the other guy, then we have a great opportunity to ruin our testimony. And of all the things that we carry with us every day, wallet, car keys, multitude of things we carry with us all day, phones, there is nothing we carry that is greater than our testimony. There's not one thing greater than that we carry with us. And the things that we do every day, the way we live our lives, how we treat people, how we honor God along that way, directly affect our testimony. And we cannot ruin that. Praise God. Father, I thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity, for your word to be spoken. I thank you for this opportunity for all of us here to search towards you, to look towards you and trust in you. Father, I ask that you just humble all our hearts, that we just look at the world as simply how you've put it. You have taken those that are sinners out of the line by your choice, by your purpose, and put us on another path. And Father, there'll be others that you do that to. There'll be some that you don't. But Father, all are worthy of being treated and looked at and hoped for as everyone can be saved. Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for your hope. I thank you for your trust, and I thank you for your spirit. And I thank you for your blessings each day. In Jesus' holy name we